Small white flowers blossom all around you. There were white flowers on the top of her roof that blew away in the wind. A rubber dinghy. Come on, this suspense is killing me. Oh, hang on. Hang on. And here's our killer. Well, I don't recognise him. There goes my theory. An old man wearing tracksuit trousers leans on the frame stock of his rifle. He gathers a big ball of spit in his mouth, then spits it into the extinguished fire before him. He raises his black eyes, hooded by creased eyelids, to meet yours. Unclouded by cataracts, his eyesight is sharp. Are you the fire guy?
What now? I can't hear you.
Did you recently tell 2 kids to put out their fire? 2 twins.
I may have. All sorts of little rats have come sniffing around trying to give up the position. Fire guy, regressive bourgeoisie henchman, can't even talk like a grown-up.
I think he's insulted us. I notice you've retained your eyesight.
My eyesight, yes. Helps me see all this shit.
A shudder of disgust passes his left side. His right side remains motionless. Nice gun.
It's not nice. It's a piece of shit. Gets the job done.
Bill Margrave.
It's a Trigon 446.
A Cimarron rifle? How did you get hold of one?
It was sent to us by our brothers in the Xinyao commune. Military aid.
The Xinjiao commune?
You heard me. It's good now. Like chalk wiped from a board.
His gaze turns inwards. I'm going to need you to put the gun down so we can talk further. With the police. Oh my god, not again. Not again.
You're a glorified night watchman. This is a service rifle. I can only lay it down before an enemy commander of corresponding rank.
Yell at him. Now. Loud. I am an enemy commander of rank. Put it down. The words I am an enemy commander sound cold as iron from your lungs. The old man still hugs his gun.
And what rank would that be, dog?
Lieutenant W. Freighter, Harry Dubois, at your service.
A big wheel of the 4th Regiment of the pederast army. To hell with it. It's a walking stick anyway. It's out of bullets.
The old man lays the rifle down, carelessly, then stares at it just lying there, like an amputated limb in the sand. Should we pick it up? Health and safety, I think we should. His gaze follows your motions. The rifle feels surprisingly light in your hand, frame stocked and patched in places with tape and wire. We take a closer look. It's in a shabby state, like a crutch that's seen too much travel. Hieroglyphs are embossed into the forearm, made of walnut. On the butt you see Vespertine writing, burnt into the wood, Triangong 4.46mm, made in Xinyao. Yeah. Jacketed ammunition, 446. The right type and the right caliber. The lieutenant nods, glancing at the gun. It is a Trigong, made in Xinyao. No one said it has to be a Belmar grave. The lieutenant does not take his eyes off the old man. We were just guessing. From ballistics, it could easily have been a Trigong too. It doesn't matter. If it was made in Shanti, all it has to do is use jacketed ammunition, and it does. Okay. The old man keeps following your motions with his gaze. His left arm twitches suddenly. This looked very much like the murder weapon. It can be used against him to get a confession. In time. Who are you? My name, he looks across the water then back at you, is Iosef Lilianovich Dross, Political Commissioner of the 114th Anti-Aircraft Division of the 4th Army of the Commune of Revachol. I am a deserter, a partisan and a prisoner of war. This is my termless surrender. His eyes turn to the reeds again, dead and dull. The Commune of Revachol? The lieutenant forgets to close his mouth. Do you mean the ICM? You're a holdover from the Insulindian Citizens Militia, the Army of the Revolution. I was recruited in Jamrock in 07, trained in the Ecolda Control Ariane and consigned to emergency defence duties in 08. I left my unit on the eve of the landing. When I returned here on May the 14th, the Commune had fallen. Still armed and ideologically trained, I wrote a criticism of myself and resumed partisan duties. 51 minus 8 equals 43. Good to be put a point into logic, isn't it? 43 years you have been on this island? No. He looks into the fire. A wisp of smoke rises from somewhere between the charred logs. I have been on other islands too. I was on Resurrection until they turned it into a spa in 18. Then I was on E48, a nameless sound, until the sea washed over it. Then I came back here. That was 22 years ago. You said you deserted your unit. I was just 16 years old. 15 when I was volunteered. I had a lapse of faith. He clears his throat. And of courage too. Lapse of faith? You could say I misunderstood the historic role of the proletariat and thought Mazovian socio-economics were fallible. For a second I doubted the irreducible laws of historic materialism. A second is all it took. For what? For reaction to take hold. What reaction? Petty bourgeois terror. It's in all men. And when was this exactly? May the 13th, 08, 44 years ago. He looks north. The horizon was black with coalition airships. Their petroleum rose to the sky and it looked like it formed the clouds, storm clouds. When they started shelling, it was dark magic. Dark magic? The combined might of international capital all at once. All the greed and terror in the world tore into Revachol. It lifted streets from the ground and turned houses into ghosts. We were in the flak tower. He gestures towards it. Huddled on the floor. The artillery was 80 kilometres away in Ozon, but I knew the commune would fall. We would all be turned into ash. So I said I was going to the map room. He looks east. A terrible shame still within him. The lobes of his ears are red with it. The shame and smallness of what he became. He didn't go to the map room. No. I climbed the chain link across the water and hid inland. In the bunkers there, like the weakest of the weak, a mouse. frightened of the ordnance all night, and the sound of the rotors in the morning, whirring. Tiff, tiff, tiff. He looks at the sky. What was that? Airships. I climbed out. He closes his eyes. Into hell. The landing was complete. The chain was submerged. I had to swim back. The fortress was half submerged too, shattered. They'd all drowned in the lower levels, or got torn to shreds above. The anti-aircraft gun had malfunctioned. So had I. I had left them without ideological direction. He opens his eyes and stares right through you. It was real. I'd seen it. I'd seen it. In reality. Some kind of great terror. Worse than you've ever seen. Seen what? The mask of humanity fall from capital. It has to take it off to kill everyone. Everything you love. All the hopes and tenderness in the world. It has to take it off just for 1 second to do the deed. And then you see it as it strangles and beats your friends to death. The sweetest, most courageous people in the world. He's silent for a second. You see the fear and power in its eyes. Then you know. Know what? That the bourgeois are not human. All right. I had to. I had to fight it. I had to never stop. The old man falls silent. His black eyes keep piercing your skin as he looks to some great distance behind you, shaking his head slowly, retreating from it. What is this place? This island? It's not an island, Drat. He looks around. It's a defensive fortification of the commune of Revachol, and I am its last surviving defender. What was it used for? The congenitally deformed King Philippe II built it to restrict access to the Bay of Revachol. We captured it in '02, retrofitted the fort with an AA gun to defend against an airborne landing, against the whole world. You mean the landing? Retaking of Revachol? Coalition military called it Operation Death Blow. He winces. I later found out on the radio they called it Death Blow. You're one of them. Tell me who speaks like that. We had 50 million people on Kalilu alone. Coalition military. He shakes his head and says, Iblis. Iblis? The black-eyed angel. How have you survived all this time? How does anyone survive? He looks at his worn running shoes. I steal. Such as? Supplies, vegetables. He winces. I collect rainwater. It's the life of a dog, not a human being. He coughs once more, then puts his hand on his belly. How is your health, Mr. Dross? I've been throwing up blood since winter. Red. Like beetroot. Been passing it in stool, too. He does seem frail. Gaunt for his age. More like 75 than 65. Trouble putting on weight. Could mean cancer. The RCM can provide medical services. You need to be looked over. I need to die. A droll smile stretches across his mouth. You don't have any medical facilities. You have guns. That's all they give you. Toy guns. You also have Druamine. Yeah, offering him some Druamine. A light goes on in his eyes. He smacks his dry lips. I have been running out of that stuff. There's no way he could manage the pain without them. It's safe to say he's addicted to painkillers by now. Yeah, very good. Okay. But insisting that we get him checked over. There's nothing to look over. The triage is in and it's black. Administer morphine. moribund. Okay. And how have you coped out here on your own for this length of time? Mentally? I haven't. I have holes in my brain, years missing, others filled with pain only, a decade of... His eyes roll into his skull and back. I don't even know what. Inferno. Huh, I also have holes in my brain. Oh, Kitsuragi is going to chip in here. I would imagine it gets tremendously difficult, mentally, to live in isolation. Traitors. It's better alone. He nods towards Martinez. I watch the people of the city turn lights back on, more and more each year, ruins glimmering in the dark, like a fucking merry-go-round. It's disgusting. He looks down at his shoes. His face parched from the sun and the wind. There's a wince of pain in there somewhere. And how have you remained hidden, concealed all these years? It was hard in the tens. He shakes his head. I didn't have partisan training. They were searching for stragglers, those bloodhounds. He closes his eyes. Floodlights on the water at night. There were posters. Campaigns. We communards still hoped, and they needed to snuff that hope out. The East capitulated. Martinez and Coal City would turn to dust. He looks south. But Jamrock, Faubourg, even Curon, and Boogie Street, of course. Those fucking kips had Mazov coursing through their veins. And others too. Some cordons of Revachol were still fighting. There were cells. I tried to contact them. Shakes his head. Soon, they all went silent. The frequencies dead. So how do you get between here and the mainland? At night, I used a dinghy. He nods toward the deflated tyre in the reeds. I only went after dark then. When I got to the city, I stayed underground. Patrols, you lot, the commons too. They'd start snitching. In the city, you move underground? From bunker to bunker. Not anymore. No one cares now. I don't even have to hide. They think I'm another antisocial vagrant. I could walk straight into that town if I wanted. I just... He falls silent, his gaze fixed on the shacks huddled together across the water. The weapons cache under St. Ghislaine 22B. Have you been there? He looks at you, then pulls the raincoat tighter around his neck. So you finally found it. There must have been a small squadron's worth of arms in there. Belmar Greys, right? Yeah. Damaged beyond use, of course. I know. So you have been there? Sleeping. He coughs. Some nights. Ammo scrounging on others. Those Margraves were shit even before they corroded. Some had bullets in the chamber, however. You feel the dots connecting. Little dots on the map. He's walked across. Is that the same line? Small bunker under the Feld building. Oh, that's the building where she popped her clogs. Okay. Propaganda bunker? They stored leaflets there, broadcasting equipment too. Made broadcasts, I think. Propaganda officers. I buried them with their leaflets. They killed themselves. 2 young boys. Killed themselves? A lot of our boys did. I spent some winters there. Never liked it. Kept thinking of them. He stares at the ruins of the Feld building. No need to go underground anymore. It's better in the ruins. On the ground. You smoke Tiamutiri cigarettes? I do. He coughs. Ever smoked them on the mainland? They're good. He nods. Plenty of tar. I like that boy on the pack too. Reminds me of the last century. You said that this is your termless surrender. You're with the RCM. He waves in your general direction. the coalition-appointed mob that enforces bourgeois morals in Revachol, a so-called Lieutenant W. Freighter. Yeah, move the RCM. Let's just leave it at that. Let's. He looks you in the eye. You represent the Moralist International, the enemies of humanity who took this city. I represent their adversary, Le Parti Communiste de l'Insulinde. Take me to them as a prisoner of war. I have relinquished my weapon. I can no longer serve. No superiors can relieve me of my duty. You bulldoze them all to a mass grave for trying to free humanity. His hand shakes, and he breaks into a coughing fit. A spray of blood from his mouth on the black charcoal in the fire pit. So you've been hiding here for 43 years. Probably just mumbling it out loud, perhaps. 43 years and 10 months. Steadfast, I'll give you that. It's not how a human being should live, but I had to. He grimaces, clearly in pain. I couldn't just forget. I couldn't just forget what I saw. What have you been doing all this time? Hiding, fishing, waiting? He looks across the water. Where the afternoon grows late, on the Rue de Saint-Ghislain people walk home. Streetlights will soon be lit. Further inland, the streets are alive with workers, men, women, children, street hawks and migrant labourers. The temperature is steady. Alto cumulus clouds form above Precinct 41. 2 police officers step out of the Whirling in Rags cafeteria. Satellite officer Jean Viquer inspects giant letters across the plaza mosaic in dark red government-marked heavy fuel oil. About time he flippin' showed up. Patrol officer Judith Minot points west. The fishing village. She glances at her watch. We meet in 15 minutes. It's a 10-minute walk. The officers go, leaving behind the writing, still smelling of petroleum. One day, it says, I will return to your side. Always waiting. The old man turns his eyes from the shore and back to you. For what? For her to return. Her who? Girl-child revolution. Women will always betray you. It just spills out. Women are more susceptible to bourgeois morals. He blinks his black eyes. The material base for an uprising has eroded. The working class has betrayed mankind and themselves. The historic opportunity for a revolution has passed. It will not come back anymore. However hard I try, whatever I do. What have you been using this gun for? I've used it for killing people. Here we go. Trail of blood. The lieutenant smells it too. Killing people? It's a gun. That's what they're for. You want a moralist euphemism? Defending your family and your property? I haven't done that. I've used it to kill people. Interesting. The lieutenant nods. During or after the war? There is no after the war. He shakes his head and smiles, his teeth rotten black. Class war is never over. So he's continued killing after hostilities ended. Okay, okay. Go in straight. No euphemisms. He doesn't like those. No. Be careful now. Slow and steady does it. Make him repeat it first. Don't mess this up. Remember, he wants to tell you. get personal. Well, stop it, you're pressurising me. So you're saying you kill people after active fighting stopped? What did I just say? He keeps shaking his head erratically. Suddenly he brushes something out of his eye. What did I just tell you? Don't drop the ball now. I know you want to tell me. Have you killed anyone with that gun in the last week or two? I don't want to tell you anything, you grotesque murderer. And why did you think that was a good idea? Don't listen to me. I'm wrong all the time. Look, did you use that gun to kill a colonel of the security contractor Krenel? The who now? He leans in and cups his ear. The corpse in ceramic armour hanging behind the whirling rags. Did you shoot him? Just flipping. Just tumbling out now. Tumbling out! A beautiful, strong man sent here by the Honourable Private Military Company Krenel. Okay, we'll go with this one. Name, Lily. Part of a security detail here in Martinez. Oh, yes. That one. He looks up to the sky and clacks his tongue. Ugly piece of work, that boy. Did you kill him? The lieutenant takes a sudden step forwards. I am a son of a welder and an officer of the commune of Rivershaw. He spits a big one at the lieutenant's feet. I do not collaborate with murderers and pederasts of the liberal regime. Tear into him. Pile it on him. Everything you got now, the more the better. Scent of the blood in the air, but what else? There was something you can't remember. Something about the tracks. Suddenly all those tracks are so confusing. Go with something else first. Come on, 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 come on. Here it comes, here it comes. The goddamn Maybells, the dried Maybells on Classia's roof. Yes, that's the one. There were Maybells in the grass. I knew that already. I put that together myself. Maybells on Classia's balcony as well. Wait, don't forget the footprints. The diagonal prints in the dust in the secret space behind Classia's bedroom. Now they're gonna come up. Thank you, Head. Thank you. It's amazing what you can think of when you've not got alcohol coursing through you. You got it, you got it. Remember, the blueprints were like no modern soul. Maybe don't beat yourself anymore, though. You're not immortal. Right, Maybells. Behind the victim's window, I saw them growing here. Damn Maybells. He looks at the blossoming field. The whole island is turning white with them. So many this year, too. Spring is coming. No, it's already here. Wash the filth away. Well, I haven't seen those flowers anywhere else in Martinez. Only here. They blossom on the islets before. We fertilise them with our blood. He looks to the water. Resurrection was snow white in May, before they ruined it. South, the Bay of Martinez is dotted with little freckles of islets, turning green with white flowers in white snow. The coast too, before they piled their containers on top of it, filled with broken, useless trash for fat-fingered bourgeois children to play with. You must get around a lot to stay undetected all these years. The lieutenant's voice is soft, friendly. Do you know any secret paths? Pinball workshops? I may. A curious tremor passes his face. A young woman called Classia. Ring any bells? Flowers like these were behind her window. Classia? You know her, right? She had an intimate relation with the victim, the mercenary. With the victim? He turns his sight from the whitening field of flowers and falls silent. Then the muscles in his jaw twitch a spasm. I wonder what brand of boots you're wearing. Everything is brands with you individualists. Who cares what brand my shoes are? Sansa? He looks at his running shoes covered in mud. Some shit. Show me the soles, please, sir. Fucking imbecile. The old man stretches out his leg. A black and white spiral pattern covers the sole of the worn-out old running shoe on his feet. The maker is called Sansarique. You see their V-shaped logo but can't make out the size. These are not the unusual horizontal patterned soles you saw in the dust on the floor of the hidden room. They do, however, seem to be about the same size. The size fits, but not the sole. Maybe it's simpler than that? 42%? People change shoes. You said yourself you've been stealing them. Doesn't mean you weren't there. Near the room the victim died in, sneaking around. Racking those brains, are you? He squints at you, black pearls gleaming with hatred. Desperate to report something back to your masters. They must have really loved that dead fuck. The lieutenant gives you a quick sideways glance and nods to acknowledge. The prints were his. You can see it in his eyes. He can't keep them from flickering, looking for something. The old man stares at his own prints in the ash around the fire, silent suddenly, some strange process within him. A gush of wind, seagulls in the distance. We've done the ballistics. The shot came from this island. I saw you poking around there, looking for evidence. You're damn diligent when it comes to dead fascies. A jitter passes him. Did you like the view? You had direct visibility. There are embrasures in the concrete, specifically meant for a top faller to use, and you had a long-range rifle in your possession. The lieutenant softens his voice. You've been here a long time, Mr. Dross. Too long. You clearly need medical aid. I'm ready to die. The man interrupts him, then coughs. I've done my part. He's practically admitting to it. Just one thing, the rifle does not have a scope. One thing, where's the scope? How did you make the shot without a scope? Maybe he's going to say, I don't need a scope, I'm crack shot McGraw, Jim, quick draw McGraw, crack shot Bill, Ma Baker, Annie Oakley, all rolled into one. Forget about your stupid fucking scope. I don't know where it is. Find it yourself. It's your problem now. Best uninterrupted line of sight into that window in all of Martinez. Because it's a sniper's nest. You stupid fuck. Radio Gauche is right. You have worms in your brain. Another sudden twitch. Then one more in his right eye. Leave no stone unturned. Get him on what matters most. This sounds like a threat. But there's nothing else for us to say. Not a lot of guns around that use military-grade ammunition, are there? It's not it's a real gun. He points to the lieutenant's holster. Not like your little musketeer pistols. I've seen you prance around with those, jumping hoops for the Liberals. You look like imbeciles. Why don't you ask them to give you real weapons? He chortles, going against automatic rifles with these toy guns. Of course you got those boys killed. Damn, he saw you. He's watched it happen. He would have a good view from the tribunal from here. It's not just empty boasting. We saved a lot of them. Their leader Titus. We handled the situation. You didn't handle anything. I watched it happen. You let those murderers rip right into them. Got most of them killed. Even the fat one. None of those people mean anything to you. The vultures feed on this city and you prepare the meal for them. So you watched the fight? The lieutenant points inland. Did you like what you saw? The mayhem? It was all your doing. Your plan. You got them killed. You don't know anything. A twitch runs across the left side of his face as he stares the lieutenant down. Stop changing the subject. We have the murder weapon. You know what? Lieutenant looks at the weapon. You're right. I'm convinced this made the shot. Should we call it? You think we have the murder weapon? 446 jacketed ammunition, modified for range. We have it. Then we have the murder weapon. Good. The lieutenant takes out his trusty notebook and draws a single line. This feels good, doesn't it? Tying things up like this. When you have the murder weapon, you have the killer. Murder? The old man does not say more. He just glances into the reeds and then twitches once more. He suddenly jerks to life. You know who he was? A coalition-trained murderer, armoured and armed. He wasn't human. The blunt end of a hammer, dripping with blood. He was a soldier too. A man. Beating us to the ground, moaning with joy. He breathes in with strange animation. You hounds get so thorough when a company-trained killer dies. I haven't seen you on this coast for 40 years. You know, maybe I should have killed one sooner. Got your attention? He looks you dead in the eyes, pupils shaking. Now, you stop beating druggies and prostitutes in your basement. Now, you come to investigate. Not when they die by the hundreds. He breathes through flared nostrils. So you killed him. Oh, the inhumanity. He closes his black eyes. One paramilitary less in Revachol. You can almost see him squeeze a tear out of his eye. His fists begin to tremble from the anger. The lieutenant raises his right arm to hush you. Hush. Okay, just hold your breath. I had them in my sights. Both of them, him and the whore. I was breathing with them in phase, and I pulled the trigger and flew on the air until I landed in his mouth. He begins to smile. I didn't think I had a shot like that in me anymore. I did. I saw him kneel there with his mouth full of death, and that stupid look on his face. The smile quivers, and his dick still in her. There, a hot flash of rage almost carries the smile away. Some dark peace. Then what? Nothing. I went to sleep. Next morning there were many Maybells everywhere. The world was white. Or what's left of it anyway. My last spring here, I knew the fascists would come to avenge their own. And so they did. The lieutenant just looks at him for 1, maybe 2 seconds and then breaks the silence. Mr. Dross, are you aware you're confessing to murder? Yes. A single word is all he gives. The lieutenant takes out his notebook slowly. Very slowly. And when you were looking at them, the victim and a young woman having sex through the scope of your rifle that night, before you shot him, your man nods. Why? Because that's what they were doing. He shrugs and smacks his lips. The motive. This is where the motive is going to come from. I don't understand. He turns to you. Do you, detective? I don't understand it. Why were you looking at them that night? I'm always looking. He cocks his head to the side and turns his eyes to the city. Another tremor passes his left side, lower in intensity. Are you always looking through the scope of a rifle? He explains. Oh shit. I'm just trying to understand. A rifle scope has the best magnification. Helps him see all the shit. And if you don't like it, if it's part of the shit you see, then you pull the trigger. Yes. He looks the lieutenant in the eye. Think of it as a form of critique. You got him going. Connect every little piece now. Wrap this up like a gift. Still, composure's rubbish. What specifically did you not like about what you saw the night of the murder? Them fucking. He looks at the charred wood. I didn't like that. See, we're jealous. Jealousy is a reactionary concept. I didn't like the Reaver enjoying himself, drugged out, soothed in the arms of a young woman. I wanted him to die so he could not enjoy life any more. And I wanted her to see his head explode. He nods. That too. She should know better than to hold a child murderer between her thighs. I knew he'd be there for one more second, writhing. That's all it takes for the bullet to reach his head. He squints. Now that I think of it, I wasn't aiming for his mouth. I wanted his brains to spill out on her, but... He shrugs. You can't have everything. Her body sweating from the drugs, slick from cerebral hemorrhage. How long have you been watching her? Since she came to Martinez. I saw her sneaking in the reeds early in the morning behind the Fell building. It was dark, still winter. She didn't have her skimpy outfit on then, just a spot in the night moving. Past the Fell building? On the coast? What was she doing there? Hiding something in the water. She had a fag after she'd done it. I was up in the ruins there. She couldn't see me, but I could see her, smoking. She was nervous, but not scared. And beautiful. And beautiful. That too. He nods. How could you see what she looked like? You said it was dark. The sun came up. Her hair was like cobwebs. She smoked more fags and snorted a line of whatever shit she was on. Right there. Shakes his head. She needed it just to move. What do you think she hid there? Her passport and tickets to villas. He coughs. And from there to Casherbroom. Some kind of hidden container. You looked into it. Yes. After she'd gone, it was a submersible. Well, made actually. Sloppy. We should have gotten her to tell us about this. Lieutenant mutters to himself. Did you take the documents? No, I put them back. Why would I take them? I'm not going to Falmouth. He seems confused momentarily. Or, I mean, moving on, did you continue watching her after this? I did. He almost smiles. She had a face like an archipelago, with those birthmarks, and a body, hard and lean and bruised all over, black and yellow. I could see she's taken a beating. I could see who she was too, he nods. A spook, on the run. Revachol's the cloaca of capital now. All the bagmen and arms dealers end up here to do drugs and have sex, like animals. You could tell she was a spook from the documents. She had different colour hair on the photo, and glasses. Forged. Some sordid bourgeois affair. I've heard about this kind of thing on the radio. The bruises. You can't make that out in a scope. And you could see her bruises through the scope of a rifle. You can't see bruises. In a scope. It's just a blur. Ooh. The bruises on her body. Any chance you've seen them through a hole in a wall? Oh yes. He smacks his lips. Cutting those drugs of hers into little lines with a knife, masturbating. Everything in him fills with impossible longing, all at once. Did you make that hole? With a clip-point knife. God, what a creepy old man. Ever see her through a window on a roof? Like that too, yes. He nods, bending like a bow against the glass. You've been through the secret route behind the whirling rags. Those were your footprints there. You just changed your shoes. I've been through all of Martinez. Every nook and cranny. And that too. Yes, that too. He shakes his head almost in awe. The things they did in that little room, what she'd do to feel good, he explains. Funny the way light works. You turn it on inside and it gets so dark out you can't see a man looking in. I learned that in the 20s when they were still hunting me. I've seen people do some shit, but... He keeps shaking his head. You hear the familiar scribble of Lieutenant's pen. A quick glance at you. One more loose end down. We're doing this, detective. Then at the man. How did you get in there? The hidden pinball workshop? I can just walk in there now after a good wash. I told you they'd think I'm an antisocial. Closing hour is a good time. The kitchen's empty. You had to open the steel door in the kitchen. How? I got that open a long time ago. Some bourgeois game merchant lived there, I didn't know, 15 years ago. He left spare keys all over and I took one. Then I saw her turn the light on one night in my scope. He points toward the whirling in rags. Did you have feelings for that woman? I'd say so. Bloody hell. There's... He sighs. There's nothing to hold on to. Only this. It's not enough. The coals of his eyes glisten suddenly, like stones dripping with water. Is he crying? Man needs to feel something else. In this fight, it helps if you have your eye on something there. He looks to the city. Its weakness. I know. There have been others. Yes, over the years, it's not unproletarian to feel something. Was that why you left the dried flowers behind her window? No. He starts to shake his head again. A sunflower on a withered stalk. Why then? I don't really know. I was there one night and she was crying, like a child, in the corner of her room, on the floor, like she does sometimes. When was this? The day after I killed him. And you brought her Maybells? Yes. He looks at the charred logs. I don't know why I do the things I do anymore. You wanted to console her. Maybe. He lowers his head and just stares at the logs. I told you, I have holes in my brain now. I wouldn't just sit here waiting for you. A sudden pang of rage. If you came 10 years ago, I would have killed you. He wipes his eye. In the silence, the lieutenant draws a line in his notes, then nods at you once more. One more down. So in conclusion, it wasn't about him after all. It was about her. Her, he repeats, staring at the ashes. Then the reeds. There's a twitch in the corner of his eye. Lieutenant nods at you in acknowledgement. That's it. Motive. We have it. The old man looks at you, suddenly remembering something. Where is she? That Classier. I haven't seen her for days. That's what gave him the full facts. He's not going anywhere after this, is he? Unless we're completely incompetent and he manages to slip through our fingers. She got away, but she led us here first. She figured out someone was watching her from the sea fort. Gone? He looks to the city and nods. I knew it. She kept staring into the scope this last week. At the island, like she knew. He sighs. She'd look at night. Crying or smoking on the roof. Staring right in me. He adds, to no one in particular, it doesn't matter. Mid-town, across the Bay of Revachol, snow falls on 40-storey towers. Above them, Lausanne Central Aerodrome, a cocoon suspended in the snowy sky by a web of suspension wiring encircled by hybrid aircraft. Look north. On the platform, a young woman is withdrawing from amphetamines, barbiturates and alcohol. Yet she smiles among the crowd, and the great ghost of the city she's leaving for another, far south. Smaller, distant, hidden. Not like the great chandelier she sees sparkle in the spring air below her. Streets and towers, tenements and water, and across it a dark strip of ruins, barely visible, if she didn't squint her eyes. There, on a dilapidated jetty, in a nameless village, 2 police officers and 1 special consultant look across a narrow strip of sea. The ruins of a sea fort stick out of the water, built by Philip II, reappropriated by the Commune, then lost in the landing. He's there, doing what exactly I don't know. Satellite Officer Vikumar points at the ruins. Behind that anti-aircraft something, that's why we can't see him. Special Consultant Heidelstam is optimistic. We'll see the boat when he comes. Let's go get a coffee until then. I know this interesting little place where... His voice trails off as the 3 walk down the jetty. As the men go, Patrol Officer Minot looks back over her shoulder at the crumbling fortification in the snowfall like a rotten tooth rising out of the water. We could get more, the Lieutenant uses the opportunity to tell you, in a lowered voice. We've got him talking. Who knows what he's seen and done over the years. Enough. Take him in. Bend his arms behind his back and end this. Okay, hang on a second, hang on. Been looking at anything else you haven't liked through that scope of yours? A tragicomedy. He shakes to life. Druggies, prostitutes, and rentiers. Detest pushes the cobwebs out of his eyes, pushes the melancholy aside. He relishes it. More specifically, the whole city is a charnel house, stripped clean and draped in neon. But Martinez, he shakes his head in grave disgust. Martinez is the worst. How come? Because of the racists. Everyone is a racist in Martinez. It's their favourite thing to do in the whole world, listening to race-thing radio shows, in the ruins, in their lorries. He points inland. Pumped full of steroids and Radio Revachol 92. Race this, race that. It's all sanctioned by that Social Democratic Union and the farce of the Social Democrat who runs it. Mr. Clare. Yes, the fly lava in his container. He let some nihilistic advertising yuppies erect a statue of Philippe III, a syphilitic murderer, on the town square, to spit on the working class. Not since the serfs of ancient Pericanasis has history produced a more inert social class than the Martinez proletariat. The rest of Revachol at least pretends to rebuild. These people still live in ruins, in tents, like animals. He points to the church. Like those boom morons on the ice. A pity they didn't drown in that tent of theirs. He keeps shaking his head, with sorrow for the sight he missed. That all? The worst of them is the blood-drenched Sucriant on her yacht, licking her lips. The old whore's gone now. Her gun-toting porcelain men are dead. So, actually, no. The worst is that old cock parading around in his uniform, throwing balls all day. It's not enough that the racists and liberals are dancing our graves. The old loyalist ghouls still parade the ruins too. Every morning he's there, while the parasites he fought to protect are off in Ozon or Croyot Moraine or some other island they've built their palaces on, feeding on drugs and having sex with their own children. That's all the rich really want, sex with their own children, throughout history, even the royal bloodlines of the suzerain. It's all just an excuse for them to have sordid sex. At least that old bastard Frizzle is now dead. Okay. We did good when we pushed him under this when we pushed him under the horse car. Until in the 30s, those disco whores. He breathes in his breath heavy with hatred. You cannot make out a single word. The disco whores are too much. Hatred shuts down his brain's language centre, leaving only a nonsensical sputter. What was that about steroids? It piques your interest. Disco whores? Whores, is all he says. Even that word has to be pushed through his teeth with great force. The rage seized too hard. Racist on the gate, pumped full of steroids? Yes, steroids. A racist on steroids. Ah, you mean Measurehead, right? What's your opinion on him? Do you see me kick him in the face? What's my opinion? You think the rich man has an opinion on this idiocy? Is the rich man on the radio telling you his opinion? No, he answers for you. The rich man's looking at real estate and fiddling his kids, wading through the corpses. Did you notice that he is not pointing toward the general area of your face? Yeah. Well, generally speaking, I suppose we don't have a positive opinion of him. You moralist types are all crypto-fascists, eternally fascinated with lurid race topics, helping the ruling class conduct their swindle, keeping the inane conversation going on Channel 4. The rich man doesn't care about complexion. He rules the world, and he laughs at your moral soliloquies. He stares into the dead embers. Do you know what? We've heard enough of this claptrap. We've heard enough. Isof Lilianovich Dross, you are under arrest for the murder of the Krenel Colonel here in Martinez. What? The old man's eyes fill with sudden, unexpected terror at the words. But you said I would be taken to the... The wind picks up. The silence on the water is broken all around you. Little shivers of waves appear. The lieutenant continues, like an incantation. Your wayfarer rights have been suspended. Information provided to the officers on the scene will be used against you by the prosecution. You will be given legal counsel within 1 week and must face court in 44 days. Do you understand? Silence. Do you understand? But do you understand, sir? No, I don't want to. I have to stay here. He looks at the reeds, eyes submerged in growing terror. He's sweating. Beads are forming on his forehead. Pupils are dilated too. Eyes getting blacker and blacker. Your confirmation is not required, sir. The lieutenant turns to you. Now, onto the boat. Perception. Can we get the perception check up? It's not going to help us, but we have been doing a lot of perception checks and some reaction speed too. So we'll get a couple of them and see what that... 28%. Let's try it. You thought you heard something. It's just the reeds. Does it have room for 3? Not really. He shakes his head. We could escort him to the pier, then either one of us can take him inland while the other stays here, but... But then, who watches him while you're coming back here? Exactly. However, we know that our colleagues are at the other side somehow, by some magic, you know, some of that sort of mystique that happens every so often. This is not a problem. This is a problem, the lieutenant says. Who watches over him while I come back for you? What is this farce? He looks around with strange desperation. This is a fucking farce. I can't... Lillian? No, you can't do that. We can all fit in the boat. Actually, no. Lillian? This is no harmless old man. Lieutenant shakes his head. This fucking world. He stares at something. Who knows what? In the dust. This world. What is this? No, listen. Listen now. You could come back for me once you've taken him to the precinct. No, no, it would take a whole day on this island. You go and transport the prisoner. I'll be here. I can escort him to the pier with you. So he's asking me to transport the prisoner whilst he stays here. I can escort him to the pier with you. What? I don't understand that sentence. Oh, he's saying that we'll take him down to the pier together, then I take him across to the other side. No need to be polite, I'll do it. Fine, whatever. This world, the old man repeats. What are you talking about? Is this... His voice drowns out in a sudden gush of wind. Us! The wind is cold, from the east. Your skin is crawling suddenly. What the hell's happening?